co-founder is Itu Chopra. This is for the Rex Karmaveer Award. So we've just gone
We are
live.
live now, sir.
So namaste, Sanjay Jha, and good evening. Welcome to the author experience conversations that we have every Sunday with authors like you. We focus on three genres basically. One is self-help, personal development, and transformation. The authors who write self-help books, then authors who write biographies, autobiographies, and stories of real heroes like myself, and then authors like you who write on cricket, political stuff, social stuff, and those are the three genres that we focus on. So it's a pleasure having you with us, and I'm sure that all our audience who has tuned in to Facebook Live is insights on what Sanjay has to say about the current scenario that is happening in India with BJP and Congress, which is hardly an opposition anymore. So before we get into that, Sanjay, and before we talk about your books, I would just like you to share with the audience who's tuned in, because many of them are old friends and colleagues of yours also, and tell us about the different and the several hats you wear. You've been an entrepreneur. You're a cricket buff. You write books now. In between, you dabbled and played around in politics. So tell us more about your entire journey of life and your life story first to begin with.
Well, Jerry, thank you very much for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here, and I hope everybody who's logged in or is going to watch this later on finds something useful to take out of our conversation. There's a reason why I wear a hat, and it's pretty obvious, as you can see by my disappearing hairline.
Right.
It is strategically a smart move to wear multiple hats.
Right.
So I'm not as fortunate as you are on the other side. Simply put, I have always been a bit of a risk taker.
Right.
And my simple funda in life is, look at a turtle. If you look at a turtle, the turtle always moves ahead when it puts its neck out. Right. And I believe when you put your neck out, when you take a risk, that's how you move forward.
Right. Failing which you can't move forward.
Failing which you can't move forward.
Right.
So I mean, the world has all kinds of people. It's not that you can bite the bullet every time. You can't be like a crazy, wild, adventurous guy at every stage of your life.
Right.
So you can play it safe. You can take a calculated risk. You can be pragmatic, but you've got to take calls in your life at different stages. Now, to cut the long story short, I've been born of a very, typical middle-class family. My father was a professor of economics. And although he was terrible in running the household budget, and I think my mother was really calling the shots, she wore the pajamas, I did realize that economics was something that really turned me on. It got me very excited. When I say turned me on, you can imagine that I have actually not gone on dates simply because I wanted to crack my price theory or my public finance or international economics. So It was a real high for me to do well in economics. As it happened, I wanted to do a PhD, and go abroad. For some reason, I didn't do too well in my master's. I missed my first division by a whisker. And then I went on to do an MBA from XLRI. I became a banker, worked with a couple of foreign banks, honestly got bored. And I know a lot of you will say, hey, foreign banks pay you obscene amount of money. In Mumbai, they give you a South Mumbai address to live in, a club membership and stuff. But yet, it was frustrating because money was such a boring subject. At that time, the RBI was like one tight regulator. You had no flexibility to come up with anything new. And everything was so tightly controlled that banking was just about, networking and, just doing the usual social smoothing. I got bored of that. And at some point, I decided to become an entrepreneur. So I launched cricketnext.com in the big internet wave of the 2000s. When Ketan Parekh and other big guys were making a stock market bull run, and then of course the .com crash happened. But fortunately for me, cricketnext.com went on to become one of those survivor.com. So don't ask me how I did it. We can spend an hour talking about that. But it was like a crazy experience in entrepreneurship. And I remember telling my wife, listen, I'm a simple middle class guy. I don't know how the hell to do business. Mm-hmm. I don't understand business, and I can manage somebody's accounts. I can probably be a good professional. I want to be a CEO of a bank, but running my own business, that's not going to be my cup of tea or coffee. She said, take a risk, my friend. I mean, what is life all about? So I did. And after the .com bubble, I was like, what the hell did I do in this crazy environment? but it taught me something that is important in life, to step out and go out in this uncertain world, because it is an oyster and you can do what you want to do with it. You need resilience, you need an ability to hang in there, but you find, when you're exposed to a catastrophe, you find a way to survive. And that's how Carnegie happened. Dale Carnegie happened, which is today, I think, one of India's best training companies, if not the largest. And and around 2004, I mean, a lot of people would be keen to know how the hell did I get into politics. I got a call from my wife who was in Delhi, and she met Jairam Ramesh, and Jairam told her, that since you guys have started Carnegie and you're the masters of public speaking and communication, why don't you come and meet the Congress president, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, and see how you can help the Congress party, because we are likely to be wiped out in this India Shining campaign of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So
Right.
take a shot. So I landed up in Delhi, and that's how my Congress journey began. And in between, I wrote a book with Myra White, which we can talk about a little later,
Right.
on corporate leadership, because I believe leadership there are millions of books written on it already. There will be many which will come out. But it's such a fascinating subject because everyone brings something new to the table. Donald Trump is an example of what a different kind of a leader can do to the world. You
Right.
have a Mark Zuckerberg, you have an Elon Musk, you have a Ratan Tata, you have a Narendra Modi. There are all kinds of leaders, and you've got to look at what each one of them is
Right.
all about. And each one is frankly distinguishing in their own way. And then, of course, I ended up writing The Great Unraveling India after 2014, because I recognized that India had fundamentally changed. And once again, I look forward to your questions on as to why I believe that way. Because bottom line, this is a great democracy. It's a
Right.
country of 140 crore people. We are 16% of the world's population. And
True.
if we are not able to make India into the greatest story of the coming decade, then I think we're missing the plot somewhere.
Right. So interesting because I was also a dot commer, started in '96, and unlike you, I mean you kind of but all our businesses went down. So I completely empathize with what you're saying, and you sold Crick Info to Network 18, is it?
Yeah, I mean, cricketnext.com, because in fact, we were always,
Cricket Next,
Cricinfo basically got sold to ESPN, Star Sports,
right?
and we ultimately sold to the great Mr. Mukesh Ambani's television group. And
Right.
that happened around 2006, and we sold in individual installments by 2010. I had completely exited Cricket Next.
Right. So at that time, was Mukesh Ambani involved with Network 18? Because I
Yeah, he
thought he
was,
came in.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, okay.
I mean, you could make out that he was building a formidable media empire.
Right, right, right. Brilliant. Okay. So that's an interesting journey. Banker, entrepreneur, then politics. In between, you dabbled in learning and development. So how did the Dale Carnegie thing happen? How,
See,
how did
Jerry,
you
I've
decide to
always,
kind of take that license for India?
yeah, see, Jerry, I always believed that, I remember when I used to work with a foreign bank and would go abroad for training programs. And I thought the batchmates that I went with, when went to Singapore or London or New York, we guys were among the brighter guys, academically intelligent, intellectually more vibrant. But whenever it came to class participation, we were pathetic.
Right,
The guy would ask question and you would find a Singaporean answering it, a Chinese answering it, a Brit answering it, an American, of course, kind of jumping the gun all the way. But we Indians would be so diffident, almost kind of as if we suffered from an inferiority complex, not willing to speak up. And I realized long time before that our biggest handicap is how do we sell ourselves.
right,
We are still very defensive. In my opinion, India hasn't done as badly, say, for example, on coronavirus. But, we are so apologetic all the time. If India does a great recovery of the economy, we are never tom-tomming it. Dr. Manmohan Singh's government had 10 years of brilliant GDP growth, but the Congress never sold it. It was so awkward in selling its own achievements.
right,
We eradicated polio. You will never hear about it. I remember the fancy, the T1 or airport here or T2 airport here in
right.
Mumbai, and the Congress party never came to inaugurate it. And it's like an international destination. real razzmatazz, makes India look good, right? Commercial capital. I think it's an Indian psyche that we just feel that we are still, you know, under some kind of a pressure to tell the world that we are still not good enough. I think it's stupid. We need to change that. And I felt that in India, we are great in coding and R&D and all that jazz. But if you're not going to go up there and speak like a Jerry Almeida with confidence and booming energy with the aplomb of a real winner, I mean, nobody's going to take you seriously. And
Right.
therefore, I thought Carnegie, with this empowering leadership and communication teaching, the best in the world, would make a difference. And I'm glad it has.
Very nice. And Carnegie's flagship programs are all about public speaking and presentation skills, which is very important today because there's so many brilliant people out there in the corporate sector who don't grow and climb up the corporate ladder only because their communication skills are ineffective. And I'm happy that you brought Dale Carnegie into India because it is the premier public speaking school. So in between, you also wrote a book on cricket. Do you want to tell the audience a little more about that?
Well,
Since
I have
cricket
always
seems to be a passion for you.
it has been, and therefore I started cricket next. I remember my wife telling me, "Okay, so you want to do a .com? What do you want to do?" And I said, "Cricket." She said, "Are you crazy? ESPN? I'm sorry, cricket is so huge. If you can't be a market leader, why be there?" So I said, "Listen, let's be the best market follower," and we did become number two. We remained number two for a long time, and were amongst the top sites in the Alexa search for years together. Why I started, wrote the book, because you see what happened, Jerry, after the .com crash, and I had hired, people from the best magazines and television channels to work for us. But when we went bust, I had no money to, retain such a high-profile editorial team. So I became not just the managing director, I became the managing editor of my site. And typically have always been very anti-establishment in my mindset. So we took on Jagmohan Dalmia, I took on Sharad Pawar. They were all BCCI presidents. And I asked the toughest questions. I remember when Saurav Ganguly was dropped, I was the one who actually vocally fought for him. I can tell you this right now. No one fought for Saurav Ganguly after he was dropped by Greg Chappell as aggressively as I did. Okay. And I take great pride in the fact that, once fought for a man who was, frankly, India's fall guy at that point of time.
Right.
So when I wrote the book, I wrote it because I realized that there was a lot more to cricket than what one saw. And, the dressing room intrigues, the corruption in the BCCI, the opaqueness of the way cricket is managed, even by the International Cricket Council. And more important, the advent of IPL, which I thought would end up destroying Test cricket. I'm very happy to say that, when I saw India do the way we performed in Australia, somewhere I'm glad many years later, 12 years after the IPL began, I'm glad that the two can coexist. But there has been, and one cannot deny, that Test cricket has got destroyed in West Indies.
Right.
Zimbabwe is out of the game. Kenya came and vanished. Today, frankly, there are not too many Test cricket playing countries that are really competing at that level. So you really have, even South Africa has become so weak. So I do believe that book for its time was pretty much an outlier. And I took on Lalit Modi on the IPL issue, the corruption issue. We had a big hand in exposing that. And to that extent, I think the book was pretty much making a statement for cricket at that point of time.
Right. Very nice. And then you wrote a book on leadership.
Mm.
What is the core theme of that leadership book?
Well, it's very interesting because I've always been fascinated by corporate, political, sports leaders. And, one of the things, Jerry, that I believe is, people see a politician, like, say, Narendra Modi, Rahul Gandhi, Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, Putin. Then, of course, you had the Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and so on. And everyone thinks that, just because you see them on television and they look larger than life, that they're, off the shelf heroes. But there is so much of struggle behind that.
Right.
I mean, what many people don't recognize is how much you fail to get to where you finally get.
Right.
I always believe that until you celebrate your failures, you can never be a great leader.
Very true.
We are all vulnerable, man. I mean, there's no need to be macho about it. I mean, come on, we all have feet of clay. I mean, you
Absolutely.
get messed up. We have fears, we have anxieties, you have stress. there are times you're awake in the night thinking about things that are going to happen the next day or when you screwed up the day before. It's so human. It's so fundamental to your entire, shall I say, existential self. And therefore, the book, which luckily I met and spoke to Myra White. Myra teaches at the Harvard Medical School in Boston,
Right.
and we collaborated, and we said, she had done some work on the American personalities and some global personalities, and I said India has great heroes. You have a Tata, you have a Tendulkar, you have a Narayan Murthy, you have an Anand Mahindra. There's a Vishwanathan Anand, and we need to be more into it. So I did a lot of research, and together we collaborated on the project.
Right.
And although I think obviously she had a greater say in the matter, so you see more of global there than Indian. But I could push as many of the people who I believe are phenomenal stories that inspire us all, and that's how the book happened. It's called the Superstar Syndrome,
Right.
and I'm very happy to tell you that Nana Lal Kidwai, who was one of my bosses when I was working in ANZ Greenlays, endorsed the book.
Okay, very nice, excellent. I've been writing books on real heroes. That's
Mhm.
called the Karma Kari series, and the
Mm.
first book was published in 2013 and went on to become a bestseller. And then we signed a book deal. And I, how have you defined leadership? Because before I share my thoughts on leadership
Yeah.
and why some people who project themselves as leaders may not be leaders at all, right?
Mm.
Because leadership is not projection,
Right.
leadership is not reputation, leadership is not coming on Time magazine and saying that I am a leader. It's not about
Yeah.
shouting with a megaphone that I'm a leader. It's not a title, it's not a position, it's not a designation, it's a choice, right? And leadership is all about character, and character, I always say, is rooted in integrity and vulnerability, like you said. And that's exactly the theme of our book, The Mojosh Inspirator, which is a
Yeah.
life leadership and learning to learn lessons. And if you
Yeah.
see this is Mojosh Inspirator in one slide. And
Yeah.
you would see that the trigger power over here, right over here, is vulnerability. That
Ah, yeah.
if you
Right.
don't understand your vulnerability, you're far from being a leader, right?
Yeah.
You've not even understood life. You've not understood that you're a mere mortal. And
Mm.
I was very happy that you also spoke about vulnerability, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of research done on this, and if you see the behavior below vulnerability, it says plan, prepare for transformation. And then one of our principles of leadership is about courage and bravery. And if you see over here, for the bravery, we have a giraffe and a turtle sticking their neck out, because you don't stick your neck
Yeah.
out, you can't make
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
progress, right?
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
always say that that leadership is not about having followers. Leaders create more leaders. Even if people are following you, you don't want them to follow you.
Mm.
Come on, you make people independent. If you're not empowering people, if you're not enabling people, you're not a leader.
Yeah.
So what I want to know from you before I try to unpack leadership from what I have written in my book is, who are the people that you profiled in the superstar syndrome, and what was the rationale for that?
You know,
I,
Jerry. You know,
I, heard- I
Jerry.
heard I heard you speaking some names, so I just want to kind of clarify that. Yeah.
Well, Jerry, let me just kind of tell you why I agree with you in entirety here, because you rightly said that we live in a world of social media today, and
Right,
everyone thinks that if you got a blue tick, you're a big star, and
right,
if you got a half a million followers, you're rocking it, etc., etc. And the more followers you have, the more successful you are.
right,
As you can
absolutely.
see that you can engineer followers from Congo and
Uh,
Zaire and everywhere
Right,
else.
right.
So yeah, I think
And all the troll armies.
all the troll armies. So I think it's crazy. That world is indeed crazy. And you rightly said that end of day, when you look at, for me, I mean, the ultimate role model for me is somebody like Lincoln, for example.
Right,
I mean, I can't think of a character who probably saw as many failures as he did
right,
before he ended up becoming the president of the United States of America, and changed American civil history, and abolished slavery. And it's
right.
not that his problems came to an end. He had a son who suffered from depression, and there were so many issues out there. I think Lincoln, to my mind, in a great number of ways, personifies the
Absolutely.
resilience of the character.
And I completely agree with you on that. I mean,
It's phenomenal.
my favorite politician too. I don't have too many, but he is my favorite. And it's related to public speaking also, because till date, the Gettysburg Address is
Yeah,
considered to be one of the most powerful speeches. Very
yeah.
short and succinct, 4.5 minutes, but very powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's something that I think when you look at, say, for India, and I look at India, and I look at, say, Gandhi. In fact, my great unraveling starts with that whole story, where I say that in after completing my XLRI MBA, and I'm in my campus interview, and the great ANZ Grindlays Bank is on the campus, the foreign bank paying the highest compensation in India, and the last question I'm asked by the interviewers is, and I was not prepared for this, honestly, because what do you prepare at the MBA level? Oh, what is India's economy going to be like, and how do you read a balance sheet and the usual crap? And I was asked this question. So, Sanjay, tell us that if we gave you a choice to have dinner with anybody you would like, living or dead, and they would have dinner with you, who would you choose? And I did not have to think too much. I don't know how it happened to me. It was like one of those, you know, lightning, that hits your sensibilities. I said Mahatma Gandhi.
Right.
And to me, Jerry, when I look back and I think about it, I mean, the man at that point when the British was so oppressive, he was preaching to his own people to be non-violent.
Right.
We were getting killed. I mean, Jallianwala Bagh massacre happens. And here is a man telling his people, be non-violent.
True.
He succeeds against
Yeah.
against Churchill and the others who mocked us,
Right.
right? And the British Empire came to an end.
Right.
And the man inspires a Martin Luther King, who ends up,
Absolutely. He's
with a
inspired many people.
yeah, Nelson
Yeah.
Mandela. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at Barack Obama. And therefore, when you think of leadership, you realize who did Gandhi go to Stanford, Harvard, London Business School? No, he didn't. Which book on leadership did he read? I can't think of any.
Right.
And these are characters who fulfill this basic norm of leadership. That leadership is like swimming. You can't
Right.
learn it by reading about it, right? You can't swim by saying, yeah, मैं किताब पढ़ लिया and I'll go to put my right leg and left leg and I'll kick with my left leg and put my left hand out. That doesn't happen. You got to learn. You got to fall into the water, get wet, maybe sink a little bit before you rise again. And therefore, I feel somewhere when I look at leadership and I look at then a modern day character I began to admire. And can I tell you a joke here? And maybe
Yes.
I'm wearing this black turtleneck for a reason, I guess.
Okay.
Default, huh? Default. A lot of people on social media from the BJP, when they wanted to kind of have a joke at me, they would call me, this guy is the Steve Jobs of Ghatkopar. Uh, and
Oh,
I
oh,
actually
why?
have,
Why Ghatkopar?
because they said he's a poor man's, kind of.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Ghatkopar for some reason was unfortunately being targeted. It could be Borivali, any other part of Mumbai city. And I said, guys, you don't know Ghatkopar and Borivali, man. Bombay has a beat wherever you are. But that was the BJP's way of joking at me. But on a serious note, what I loved about even a guy like Steve Jobs, okay, because of the risks the man took.
Right.
He gets sacked from his own company, comes back. It's not that he created anything new. I mean, an iPod and all were not really modern. I mean, he just took another product and gave it a variant.
Right.
And guess what he does? He creates magic with that. But I
Right.
do believe he had a temper. He was a creative genius. He didn't believe in. He had no patience for anything. So he defies the conventional leadership model. He was
Right.
not a great team player, right? I mean, he was a. In fact, if you read his daughter's book, she almost hates him till the end.
True.
So
True.
I do believe that, Gandhi had his children were pretty
Right.
much ostracized. So nobody is perfect. And as you rightly said, when you begin to realize we are human, you'll have your bad hair days, man.
Right.
I have terribly bad hair days, as you can see. But the truth of life is that I think leadership is about the ability to somewhere down the line do something for a bigger cause than your own narrow parochial ambition.
Right.
And if you believe that you can actually help people who can't really pay you back, I believe for me, a leadership is, some things that you do, my friend, is when you do things for people, not because there is a quid pro quo, but because you believe that your effort
True.
makes a difference to somebody's life.
True.
I would love to do things for people, get zero in return, But out of the 1,000 people that I help, 25 of them end up becoming something big or happy or successful, or just they sleep well, or they
Right.
have greater faith in humanity. I think I've done my job well.
Very nice. Excellent. And I'm happy that, both of us are meeting on a plane we're on the same page about what leadership truly is. And like just to define how I explain leadership in all my talks or workshops, because that's what I do as a leadership coach and a professional speaker. And I always say leadership is character, character is integrity, and integrity is what you're doing when no one is watching,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
means it's not about projection, it's not about being on Time magazine. And frankly, I mean, one of the things which I did in my life when I started the International Confederation of NGOs and the Rex Karmaveer Awards, I decided not to take any awards because the thinking was very simple. I'm not doing anything for anybody. We have two sons. If we don't create a better world and a better society for them, what am I doing, right? Because what's the legacy you're leaving behind for your kids? You have two daughters, right?
yeah,
And I don't think the world or our country is a safe place anymore,
yeah,
not only for girls but also for boys. I get scared when my boys go out.
yeah,
Someone might pick them up in Gurgaon and rape them, right?
yeah, yeah,
So and the world has gone into a different spin altogether in the name of so-called development and GDP, etc.
yeah.
And that's another topic altogether, but we'll probably cover it more towards the end of it.
Sure.
So when we define leadership as being integrity, and then you see so many people who are projected leaders being duplicitous with what they say and what they do, there is a shift. And the entire concept of leadership actually has got very vulgarized over the years. Born leaders, it's not there. And that's the reason I asked you, what is the core of your superstar syndrome, because that's exactly how we have explained it in our Karma Kari books. Because if I really wanted to have dinner with someone, and again, I had the privilege of having lunch with a man called Dashrath Manji. And over the years, the one regret I have is that I don't have a photo with him. I
Mhm.
don't normally pose for photos or take selfies, right? Uh, and that's another thing that you see, that so many people who are out there doing well in the corporate sector or in the media sector love to take their selfies and put it up. People
Yeah, yeah,
even take selfies with Vijay Mallya, and I'm like, what are you doing? By doing that, you just shown me that you're a fraud.
yeah,
Right? so,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
actually wrote an article on this when someone wanted to take a picture with all due respect, because I know you're from Congress, but someone wanted to take a picture with Chidambaram at the Bombay airport. And then when Chidambaram refused him, he was crestfallen. And
Oh,
unfortunately for him, he ended up sitting with me. I wrote an article on this in Business World and happened to be one of the directors in the Big Four.
oh,
And we just got talking over this is at the Bombay airport. And he said, very rude guy. I said, forget him, right? But what happened to you? You seem to be an educated guy, Ivy League educated, working with the Big Four as one of the directors. I said, why would you want to take a selfie with this guy? I mean, he's tainted, right? So there is a clear uh, deficit of self-esteem in the world, and leadership is again related to self-esteem. What are your thoughts on that?
Jerry, I believe it's a modern day tragedy in leadership that you have a very disturbing manifestations like what you saw at Capitol Hill in the US on January 6th. The most powerful man in the world instigates a mob against his own
Absolutely,
government. I
absolutely,
mean, I, I
absolutely.
mean, I mean, I remember all of us when we went to America for the first time. I remember the flight landing in New York, and I was like, God, I'm in New York. I mean, is this a reality or what? Calling up my dad in the night and saying, Dad, I'm in New York, for God's sake, and I've arrived. I've made it. All your dreams have come true. And look at what it's become. As you said, you have two sons. My daughter refused to go to study in America because she said, I don't want to be in a country which has chosen Donald Trump to be the president. So she went to Canada. She did. And this is exactly why I think we do, Jerry, you and I do what we do. See, because I
Great
do.
integrity shown by your daughter. Great integrity.
Absolutely, and I'm very proud of her. And although many people in the BJP may not like that, she's in Justin Trudeau's country, but that's another story. But the fact of the matter is
Right,
that end of day, today's leadership is all about self-aggrandizement. It may
absolutely.
not be about money, but then it's a lust for power. It's about perpetuating a cult,
Right.
and you can see that. I mean, look at Turkey. Look at Mr. Putin.
Right.
He poisons his rival.
Right.
Now the rival is back in Russia and the country is up in arms. You have people who have become, unfortunately in politics, and that's something that fascinates me
Right.
because politics influences every aspect of our lives. The corporate sector in India is, for example, today castigated by many for, not opening their mouths. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
does
and, and,
does
and and the silence is deafening.
this is definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm like, for God's sake, this is, you don't live in an economy, you live in a society. Okay, you don't live in a GDP, FDI, GST, ease of doing business. My friend, I'm sorry, you live in a gender disparity index, you live in a human development index, you live in a transparency international index, you live
Absolutely.
you live in a democracy index, you live in a world press freedom index. Come on. I mean, if we as a society are going to look at tomorrow's budget as the make all and end all of our existence, then you know what? I think we are finished. We are
Absolutely.
morally disintegrated to smithereens.
I
And therefore,
completely agree
Jerry,
with you.
my firm conviction, and that's what I put forth in the superstar syndrome. And that's for the word syndrome. It's not like, celebrating the superstar status.
Right.
It's to say, hang on, buddy, there's a story behind it, and it may not be as powerful as it appears.
Right.
We are, as you rightly said, at the end of the day, a product of, are we credible? And credibility comes with trust, and
Absolutely.
trust is something that can evaporate. It just kind of eviscerates with one mistake and you're over.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
over. It's history. And therefore, in my opinion, that's the key, that if you're a leader, you have to live yourself by exactly what you mentioned. You are being watched by your own conscience, and
True.
therefore there is no margin for error.
Very true. Very true. And I'm so happy that we agree on this because, in a lot of talks which I do in on social platforms, I have to kind of be a little humorous to take the edge away from what I'm going to say about Narendra Modi, because a lot of people think he's a great PM, and I'm like, I mean, how can you be such fools to be fooled all the time? And for me, what works is I'm non-partisan. I really don't follow any party. I'm apolitical when it comes to any party, but I'm a political animal because I'm a citizen of the world's largest democracy.
Sure.
And the way I say it to them is, first I talk about Trump, and I say, no, in 2017, and this I'm sure you know about this. In case you don't know about this, it may sound like a joke to you. In 2017, in a national survey, many Americans believed in the national survey. They ticked right in the alternatives that brown chocolate is made from brown milk, which comes from brown cows. And people
I didn't know
laugh.
that. I
People
didn't know
laugh.
that. Really?
Yeah,
Really?
right. And then I tell them, now you know how Trump became president,
Brilliant.
right? And then I say, in our country, we get
Yeah.
frogs married for getting rain. We have havans to save the environment, while our prime minister says there's no climate change happening. So now you
Yeah.
know how Modi became prime minister.
Yeah, yeah,
Modi
yeah.
didn't
And I
become,
can I add a point? And the
yeah,
judge says that, how do peacocks get pregnant? Because of the tears they cry,
right,
right?
right,
And Mr. Modi said that, hey, we had plastic surgery in some Vedic
absolutely.
age.
And people fall for this nonsense because he's shown you this dream of Hindu nation. This is not a Hindu nation. This is India. It belongs to everybody who's an Indian, right? And I think this is the sad state of affairs. Sanjay, I just turned 50 in November. For, I would say, 49 years of my life, I've been trying to stop people from going overseas after their education. That, hey, stay back here and do something here, man. Today I
Mm,
tell people, get out of this goddamn country,
mm,
right?
sad. This is sad. Yeah, yeah. It's a
And
tragedy. Yeah.
yeah, and that this is where I'm going to ask you to speak about what inspired you to write about the great unraveling, and what is the core theme.
Your question is so brilliantly choreographed here for me. I'll tell you why, and you have done it unwittingly. I know. You talked about telling people to go abroad, and this is a country where you fought to keep people in. No brain drain, etc. And Jerry, how it all started. I mean, I remember 2019 election. and we lose terribly. Second time, I was devastated. I was very sad. I was worried. And as you rightly mentioned, yeah, this is such a phenomenal country, India. I mean, the beauty of this country is its diversity. The beauty of our country is the fact that, hey, nobody cares whether you're a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Jain, Parsi, whatever, Sikh. I mean, I mean, come on, you look at an Indian cricket team, you look at the Indian military, you look at NSG commandos who came to fight to save lives during 26/11. Did we ask them, are you Hindu, are you Muslim, are you a Sikh or what?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, what rubbish is this? And somewhere down the line, Jerry, on that day, I tweeted, it doesn't matter if we lost, but at least I'm glad I fought on the right side. There's a friend of mine. She's from Pune. I won't name her because you never know whether the government will hound her or what.
Right.
Who's part of an NGO and has done some amazing work fighting for the dispossessed, for the marginalized Dalits and the tribals of this country. And I'm sure if somebody from the right wing wants, they will even discover who she is. Lovely person, probably one of the most genuine individuals like you, people who do work for others. I mean, and I always believe that there is so much you can do more. So I'm a pygmy compared to you guys, in all honesty. And she messaged me saying, Sanjay, thank you for that reassuring message, but I think it's getting over. I'm not so bullish as you are about India. And I might just look out of moving out of this country. And I was heartbroken. And I said to myself, and I write that in the book, in the introduction itself. And I said, hang on, if she goes to live abroad, whether she lives in Portugal, New Zealand, or Australia, one day she's going to die, and she's not young. She's in the mid 50s, and she's going to die. And in a foreign country, she's grown up here. Her parents are old in here, and she'll die in a foreign country. How many people will attend her funeral? How many people will even know why she was here? She'll just be an immigrant who came and passed out. And why? Because she couldn't, she found the atmosphere in her own country unbearable, insufferable. She found the democracy questionable. How sad is that, really? Honestly, I blame both, not just the BJP and the hardliners and the right wing. I even blame my own party, Jerry,
Absolutely.
for the fact that we did not protect MF Hussain. Yeah? MF Hussain, the great painter, died abroad, couldn't come back to India. And I think, it's a failure of India's political ecosystem when you can't protect NGOs, authors, intellectuals, politicians, civil society, anybody from expressing themselves. Now, you may disagree. Yeah? I understand. There are some things artists do. They do take a creative liberty. For God's sake, don't make them anti-national. Don't terrorize people. Don't put them to jail. Don't watch it. Don't see it. But, is India so thin-skinned today? I mean, we are offended by a comedian who never even cracked the joke, Munawar Faruqi.
Right.
I mean, Tandav has offended people's sensibilities. Kunal Kamra has said something in the Supreme Court as a contempt of court. Now, we can debate all of it till the cows come home. But why has India become so intolerant? And that was the trigger for my book, Jerry, because I realized that, hang on, somebody needs to speak up. Okay?
Right.
And you should speak up when you're there. A lot of politicians write books when they're at the end of their career.
Right.
All right? And, we are young. I don't consider myself old just because I'm on the wrong side of the 50s. And I tell myself that, I got a role to play and I'm going to take the risk. And I come back to that point. The Congress suspended me. The BJP, I would never join another party. Right. I said, this is the time for me to stand up and write a book that questions the BJP, questions the opposition, questions the Congress, because India is bigger than the sum of BJP, Congress, and all the political parties put together multiplied by 100. This is a great country. And I'm a citizen first, and then whatever else thereafter. Sorry, I gave you a very long answer there.
No, that's fine. And what are some of the key points that you make in the book?
What I say is that, listen, I mean, democracy, to borrow from what Joe Biden said, is fragile.
Right.
All of us think that, we come and, take vote on that day, then we put up a Twitter or a Facebook thing with a blue smudge mark. I mean,
right.
Everything, our job is done.
Right.
मैंने अपना कर्तव्य भारत के प्रजातंत्र के लिए, भारत के लोकतंत्र के लिए मेरा कर्तव्य हो चुका है.
Right.
अब देश जहां भी जाए वो तो राजनेता उसका ठेका राजनेता लेगा.
Right.
That is the biggest mistake we made. Democracies have to be protected.
Absolutely.
You see, the danger that you have in today's world of electronic television and social media is that democracy is not going to die in the form of an emergency of 1975-77. You know, like every time you tell somebody in India today, yeah, there is too much of authoritarianism. India has become a republic of fear. The BJP immediately tells the Congress, but you are the guys who brought in the emergency. हमने तो emergency नहीं लाया है. आप लोगों ने emergency लाया. Who are you to tell us that democracy is dead?
Right.
That's where the Congress has not been able to answer that narrative. You
Absolutely.
see, public mind will always remember an extraordinary, spectacular event.
True.
See, nobody will forget 9/11.
Right.
Okay, but if you think about it, there have been equally dangerous, heinous terror acts all over the world.
Right.
Maybe not with 3,000 people dying at one stroke, but they have happened. Okay, but 9/11 is the barometer of terror or violence. Now, emergency was wrong. The Congress apologized and should apologize. It was terrible. It was not just an error of judgment, it was a disaster. But to me, there's a greater danger, Jerry, when there is a stealthy emergency.
Right.
And India's civil liberties go, and people don't even know that it's gone.
Absolutely. And that is what is happening.
And that's what's happening. You see, democracy dies in an imperceptible fashion.
Absolutely.
So if you today talk to the common man, and you and I talk the word institutions, he thinks, yeah, these guys are just intellectual mumbo jumbo. Ye institutions kya hai? You see, for him, मैं तो वही पिक्चर देखता हूँ, मुझे तो कोई रोकता नहीं है बोलने में, कोई पाबंदी नहीं है. But भैया,
they don't want to think.
They don't want to think, but what you don't know is आप WhatsApp पे वो नहीं कह रहे जो आप पहले कर सकते थे. आज आप सरकार की निंदा करें तो कोई आपको देशद्रोही बना देगा. So this is where I think civil society has to fight back, because democracy in the modern day, Mr. Modi will never have an emergency. He doesn't need it. Yeah? I mean, today there is fear. And I'm telling you right now, people are practicing self-censorship in our country.
Right. Right. And I think for me personally, the Modis and the Amit Shahs are, in Goa we say merd. Merd is Portuguese for crap. I always say the merd. But more than them, what concerns me today is the citizenry of India. Right? I write anything against the Pope, like I'm non-partisan, I'm also non-religious. So I don't follow Christianity or any religion. So I write anything against the Pope, or I write anything against a bad Islamic practice, I will be hailed by all the chaps who are the Facebook friends and LinkedIn friends. Right? The moment I write something against Sadhguru or Ravi Shankar, that they are frauds, oh, I'm a rise back convert. So what you're saying is absolutely right. The polarization has become absolute in the past few years, from 2014, and more so after 2019. And I always say this, some of my friends are pro-Congress, some are pro-BJP, and people always think that Congress is corrupt but not communal. And then they have this perception that BJP is communal but not corrupt. And I'm like, they're the same. They're the same. Right? It's the point being that it's just about choosing the lesser evil. And this is what I wrote in my first open letter to PM Modi after he became PM in 2014. I said, all the people are saying you won. You're sadly mistaken. You did not win. It's the public of India who for the first time won. They have rooted for the lesser evil because they were fed up of Congress. I personally worked with Manohar Parrikar in 2012 to ensure that all the Congress people were defeated because they were all thugs and thieves. I actually did a campaign in Goa, don't vote for thugs and thieves, and get swayed by movement.
All right, okay.
Right? And I said Manohar Parrikar is the lesser evil. That's where the BJP victory started. Today, I want to work with Congress to say, get this thugs and thieves out now. Today, Congress is the lesser evil. Right, so we are stuck. It's a catch-22, So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think a new order will emerge? Because that's something that you've been talking about.
Yeah, Jerry, let me tell you this: that you have to be one of the most intrepid, bold guys in this country to be able to challenge both the parties. How many people today speak with the candidness with which you have done? Tell me. See, I'll tell you why. Because see. Ultimately, when you come with a clear conscience, you're like, मुझे किस चीज का डर होगा यार, मैंने सरकार से मुझे कोई सिफारिश करने की जरूरत नहीं है. You are leading an independent life, your own, kind of existence based on your hard work. Why the hell should you and I be scared of, who the hell is going to come knocking at my door at the midnight hour? Even
Right.
if you come, man, I'm willing to take you on. See, the simple thumb rule, as you rightly mentioned, is the fact that the Congress and the BJP, unfortunately, are both responsible for allowing, I think, their governance to be dominated instead by their own self-aggrandizement.
Right.
Okay, so let me tell you where I think the BJP is clearly, and that's what I've written in my book. The BJP seems to be guided so much by this Hindutva character of India that everything else becomes secondary.
Right.
Development was nothing but an obfuscation to make it appear that, I'm going to give you a Gujarat model, which was anyway highly suspect. The Congress, think about the Congress. I mean, Congress has been playing minority vote bank politics from time to time. It's a fact.
Absolutely. Reservations, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be smart. Now, when the BJP said that there was minority appeasement, the Congress had to go and explain that why in a society it is the job of the majority or the job of the majority community to make sure that the minorities don't feel insecure. But here the BJP has successfully told the majority community, I'm a Hindu, I'm a traditional Brahmin from Bihar.
Right.
They're telling me that you should be very scared of the minorities in this country.
Right.
80% should be scared of 14%. This is the magical propaganda of the BJP.
हिंदू खतरे में है,
right?
पर हिंदू से खतरे में है.
Yeah. So now there you are. The BJP is now the custodian of Hinduism. Who made them the custodian of Hinduism?
Right.
I pose this question that Hindutva is not Hinduism.
Absolutely.
Hindutva was coined by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar in the year 1923. Hinduism is centuries old, for heaven's sake.
Frankly.
So where is Hindutva appropriating Hinduism? I mean, there cannot be anything more absurd than that.
Absolutely.
Number two, I think, I look at India and I say, here you have a Bismillah Khan, you had a Zakir Hussain,
Right.
you had a Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, you have a Shah Rukh, you have had Muhammad Azharuddin. Forget the fact that he had a bad run at the fag end of his career. You look at culture, art, you look at Hamid Ansari, you look at Wajahat Habibullah.
Right.
I mean, you look at eminent personalities who've been Muslims, Christians. I mean, you have had phenomenal people in India.
Right.
And here we are saying that no, we are going to be defined by the religion. The religion is going to define it. We're going to be a majority country. I mean, you said the leadership currently is taking India down some strange rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I mean, this is the tragedy. The world, this is the Gandhi's country. This is a country of a culture and character. Where's it going?
And my concern is that he's got the people's imagination to think that this is a Hindu nation, and what hurts me is very educated people have started talking bunkum, and they've fallen for it.
They're falling for it, and let me tell you something, Jerry. I mean, it is the educated lot that has now become the real hard bhakt.
Right.
You see, let me tell you that if you look at Bihar elections, right, they gave BJP a run for the money. So the idea of India is actually can be protected only by the farmer. Huh? It can be protected by the farmer. It can be protected by those who truly understand their need for an India that is not going to be divided by religion. But you find if polarization is succeeding in India, the manifestation of that is in India's social media.
Absolutely.
The social media is now so vitriolic that when Tanishq comes out with a commercial
that's
showing
so
that, I mean, come on, there's anger on the streets. I'm appalled, Jerry, that India is not up in arms over the most powerful word which is being abused in this country, love.
Absolutely.
So now if a Muslim loves a Hindu, man, woman, whatever, whichever side, we're going to look at it with suspicion. I mean, you need to register and give somebody a notice that you're going to get married. You've got anti-love jihad laws. I mean, these are tremors for a democracy. Right. And therefore, Jerry, in my book, I pointed out at the very beginning, and, it hurts me Um, we were talking about Gandhiji's assassination that happened just yesterday, right? We were
Right.
remembering Gandhiji. And my book starts with that because I say, hang on, the BJP chose in Bhopal its Lok Sabha candidate, Sadhvi Pragya Singh Thakur, who said Nathuram Godse is a patriot.
Right.
And if India is going to celebrate Godse and malign Gandhi, then Jerry, you and I have to fight, but we got to fight a lot harder.
And unfortunately it's happening all over, and you have very educated people who are falling for this rhetoric,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not a big fan of Gandhi. I love all his teachings. I'm not a big fan, but I think Nathuram Godse is nowhere near him, right? And my big heroes are Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru, and Chandrasekhar Azad, right? I don't think the country or the world has seen a sacrifice like that,
I agree. I agree.
right?
I
and
agree.
and and unfortunately, I mean, we've not even cleared their names in the international tribunal,
Yeah.
right? so
Yeah.
so so that's how busy we are as a country, and that's why I always say India is not the world's largest democracy, it's also the world's largest hypocrisy.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said, Jerry. That's well said. I think I would say that's a brilliant line, honestly, because
Yeah.
we are delusional and we are so convenient
Right.
and we are so full of mendacity when it suits us. So,
Absolutely.
when it suits me, hey, I'll give you one example. Yeah, I mean, Modi ji says that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar is a patriot, and I
Right.
questioned the BJP on that. I
They
said,
call
listen,
they call him Veer when
Veer,
there is all documentation to show that he's sold his soul just to get freedom.
yeah. So you had if Vinayak Damodar Savarkar is a patriot, his Hindu Mahasabha was indicted for the murder of Gandhiji.
Right.
You can't say that Gandhiji is a father of the nation and at the
Right.
same time called Vinayak Savarkar a patriot. So I think these are the contradictions of India, and we are currently living with that uncomfortable reality.
Right. You know, it's interesting what you said about Hindutva is not Hinduism, and Hinduism per se, I'm sure you know about this. Hinduism per se is just a word which came into being by default because the Persians couldn't. I mean, they couldn't pronounce Sindhu because there's no S in their language. So they would say those Hindus, which were the people living by the river Sindhu, right? So if you see the Vedas, if you see the Upanishads, even the Bhagavad Gita, it comes from a period called Sanatan Dharma. And then the Hindu word stuck, which is what these guys are playing on. And I'm sure 85 to 90% of the Hindus won't even know about this.
They don't. And I'll tell you something. I mean, think about it. Does I've been a Hindu. I need to share this with you because we still got some time. I need to share with you this quick personal story of mine. We were four kids. Three of us were born very close to each other. Typical, Bihari household. So, I was, my mother could not manage three kids, age 3, 4, and 5. So she had somebody help, take care of one of the kids. I was brought up to a great extent by a Muslim man. And, we grew up never thinking. I mean, I'm sure there were communal tensions even then in India in different pockets, but you never had it becoming a mainstream part of your society
Absolutely.
where you looked
Absolutely.
at somebody with a
That's
skull
the
cap.
scary part. Yeah.
That's the scary part. And I just recognize this truth today that, lynching murders happening in India and we are okay. I mean, today, Hinduism, in my opinion, is the wonderful religion of tolerance. We have multiple gods, we go to multiple temples of different shapes and sizes. We do all kinds of prayers, we have multiple festivals. And I'm
Absolutely.
telling you, I have been grown up to see my religion as one that is an epitome of forbearance, of
Absolutely.
love, of compassion.
Absolutely.
I mean, Swami Vivekananda's teachings are twisted to show as if even he had a certain,
Yes. This is
a
that's the
religious
sad part
bias.
here.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I completely agree with you. I mean, that's the scary part, that he's got the public's imagination to think this Hindu nation, that Hinduism is the greatest religion, which kind of completely discriminates against all religions. And the reason I say Hindu khatre mein, Hindu se khatre mein hai, because once the Sikhs and the Catholics and the Muslims are taken care of, then the higher Hindu will come for the lower Hindu, right? You any which way have the Dalits who are completely marginalized and dispossessed and ostracized from society. Yeah, I mean, considering the fact that we are today we are in the age of IT and being a so-called 5 trillion economy and superpower, and we still consider people as untouchables.
Yeah, India still has a caste system. It still has a caste system. You look at the amount of violence against Dalits. I mean, Rohit Vemula is a classic example of the kind of
Absolutely.
what I call as a political discrimination that happened against him. And you look at the flogging of the four boys stripped to a jeep in Gujarat that happened. I'm telling you, I think we got a long way to go.
Absolutely.
In India suffers from serious inequality. We
Absolutely.
need to be an egalitarian society. All of us need to begin to reclaim the India of our dreams. We need to reclaim.
Reclaim and preserve the principles of
Yeah,
democracy, which basically means people power.
people
It's
power.
not political power. It's not politician power. You've written some things about the media also in your book. I read in one of your tweets about Arnab and things like. What are your insights about what's happening with the media today?
Well, I think India is going through a phase, Jerry, of a media capture. See, let's take Arnab's example. I knew him once upon a time when he was an anti-establishment guy, and I used to go and argue with him. But I admired his criticism of the government because I believe that the media is the intermediary between the state and the citizen. It must always show the mirror to the government and fight for the common man. When you have a Republic TV and many other TV channels that are openly become government cheerleaders, it's a mockery of democracy. You have today when media is very brazenly sharing fake news, right, to suit the government narrative. We have a problem. We have a problem. And I believe that's one of the reasons why Indian democracy will remain highly susceptible, because the fact is that you have people watching all the news on television and WhatsApp and on social media, Facebook, and you name it. So you have trouble here. And you see, when fake news becomes part of political strategy,
Right.
then I think, hey
Yeah.
man, we are
Absolutely.
down a black hole. Yeah.
So you don't only have fake news, you have troll factories which kind of attack you or spread, biased news and send out
The worst.
doctored and fake videos, which completely kind of changes public perception, and I think that's very scary. Last year when Shaheen Bagh was on in full bloom, we decided to go and award the women of Shaheen Bagh the Karmaveer Chakra,
Wow.
which is instituted in partnership with the UN.
Wow.
And because it was announced and it went all over on social media, for the first time, Shaheen Bagh had a crowd of over 2 lakh people. And then everyone, of course, came there for their brownie points and to build their image, right from activists to the Shashi Tharoors of the world. And by the time we reached there at 7 o'clock, news had spread that this is a UN international Christian funded
Oh my.
award.
Oh,
And it didn't help that Jerry Almeida is a person who's born in a Christian family. So that and that evening, I told my team that, Itu and Nishant were with me, and I said, let's not give the award today. And then just the two of them went because they're both Hindus, and they went and gave the
oh my
award.
God.
And 10 days later, so you actually have this entire polarization which is happening, right, where they completely color you. Uh,
Mhm.
now from Shaheen Bagh to the farmers protest, where you colored an entire community who are the protectors of this nation. I'm married to a girl from the Sikh community, and they are the ones who send their sons to sacrifice their lives in the Indian army. It's not the Gujaratis who send them. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this straight. There's a very famous quote by Sam Manekshaw. It's actually an entire story where he says that I'm afraid I don't know Gujarati because there was never a Gujarati soldier, right? So here you have so if you see the most of the communal mindset and the communal kind of um, reactions which come up on Facebook are mostly from people from the Gujarati community. I've seen that. I've observed that. Right. Of course, you have people from UP and Bihar also who do it, but it's mostly from there. Now, you kind of colored an entire community as Khalistan while they're just farmers. And today, what he has done, with the farmers on 26th of January, is that you kind of perpetrated violence only to show that the farmers were wrong. It's very stark that it was completely engineered and architected by people in the BJP. What are your thoughts on this?
See, Jerry, I mean, I want to say one point that, the danger to democracy arises principally when everyone who opposes you is painted as a traitor,
or anti-national.
anti-national. I
So
mean,
you,
I mean, so what happens is the narrative is based not on discussing the farm laws, but on saying, is he against the country or is this political party against the country?
right.
And it's fascinating. But when you go back to Republicans, you know what the Republicans campaigned around the time of after 2001 when the 9/11 strikes happened, the airstrikes happened in the World Trade Center. They said that Democrats are on the side of Al Qaeda. I mean, ridiculous. Can you believe that? I mean, Donald Trump successfully told Republicans that Barack Obama is a Muslim. And 48% of the Republicans believe that. And this we consider the most enlightened democracy in the world.
Absolutely.
It goes to tell you, Jerry, I mean, uh, that we are yet a work in progress as a democracy. I mean, farmers, for God's sake, maybe. I mean, it's possible that there was some infiltration can happen. There can be some disruptive elements. All that is part of the regular political process. But to call farmers as separatists,
Right.
Khalistanis, is really
Extremists.
mocking it. And as you rightly mentioned, yeah, I mean, they provide the food grains for India.
Absolutely.
They have so many contributions to patriotic soldiers who have died for the country. But I think look at how toxic is our conversation.
Absolutely.
I think, Jerry, I mean, I don't know how this 1 hour has zipped with you right now, and I really can't believe that. But I want to tell you this, that we need people who speak up. You're
Absolutely.
questioning the government, you're questioning the Congress. That's what democracy is all about, man. I mean, somebody criticizes Mr. Modi, Mr. Amit Shah, the BJP. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I have always believed that good leaders must always listen to the bad news first.
True.
A
Very
good
true.
leader is one who invites criticism, who
Right.
celebrates where I've goofed up.
They celebrate feedback because feedback is
Yeah,
the multivitamin of champions.
absolutely.
That's what
Absolutely.
real leaders are all about. They invite feedback. They seek feedback. But you have our man in office who surrounded himself with yes men and cronies, and that's it. I want to ask you this. You are a great spokesperson, very eloquent. You teach public speaking, and I think one of the biggest, or maybe the last nail in the coffin in 2014 was the interview of Rahul Gandhi, which was planned with Arnab Goswami. Now, there were two big PR agencies which were behind that interview, IPAN and Genesis, right? And what happened there?
But I have spent quite a bit of pages writing on that entire episode. I think one, Rahul was not prepared. I think the judgment on why they went with Times Now is absurd because Times Now was the number one channel then. I can't deny it. But Arnav was clearly anti-Gandhi family.
Right.
And I used to be on Arnav's show all the time. Nobody asked me that. I mean, nobody even told me what's your, do you think we should go with Times Now or maybe some other channel? Now, see, the fact of the matter is that the Congress has never taken political communication seriously. It has always believed that, my work will be known by the people. Boss, you live in an age where you got to work hard and tell the world what you do.
Right.
People want to see achievement. One of the reasons why Mr. Modi has succeeded, Jerry, is because everything they do, they tom-tom it.
Absolutely.
Ujjwala Yojana, I mean, how much has it succeeded? How many cylinders have been refilled? We don't know, but we provided it to the women.
Or everything they don't do, they promote it.
Promote that, yeah. So if you notice, the BJP has taken Manrega,
Right.
Aadhaar,
Right.
direct benefits transfer, Swachh Bharat are all Congress schemes, right? And they made it big. And this is the story. GST was a Congress thing that they appropriated that. So bottom line, this is what we need to recognize in India.
Right.
And political parties need to understand it. Media is critical. And I think the Congress party should have learned from the error of 2014. And Rahul probably, in my opinion, should have prepared himself for future interactions with diverse journalists.
True.
Not done 1 hour interview, but 20-minute interviews.
True.
Being prepared for them, he could have changed the narrative. But I
actually
how
use
it's
that.
called.
I actually use that interview in my public speaking coaching
Yeah,
program.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, what you should not do,
But you
right?
should not do.
So I say he had the wrong coach. Uh, Sanjay, you're brilliant with what you do as an entrepreneur, as an author, as a politician, as a learning and development professional. You excelled in all that you do, and today you find yourself at the receiving end of the of what Congress has done with you, just because you express dissent. So on one side, you have the current government, which is not ready to listen to dissent, because anybody who is a voice of dissent is an anti-national and a traitor. On the other side, you have Congress, which should have listened to you, because what you said, I completely agree with that. That the Congress leadership really needs to seek feedback and look deep within with some deep reflection to figure what's the next level of leadership that is required. Leadership cannot be contained within the family only. So I'm completely with you. And just for saying that we need to kind of revisit our strategy, you get sacked. What 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 do you plan to do next?
Well, Jerry, frankly speaking, I think the Congress overreacted.
I'm talking about politics.
Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah. What
No,
do you plan?
I am glad because, my future, frankly, is going to be about trying to be a voice for progressive politics. When I wrote my book, Jerry, and I think this was to me my ultimate compliment when the great Dr. Amartya Sen endorsed the book. And he said, I like the fact that you are looking at progressive politics.
Very
I
nice.
believe India suffers from inequality. India cannot but be secular. India needs to be inclusive. We need to be a tolerant society. We need to live together in peace and harmony. It's a great country.
Right.
It deserves better. I don't think the BJP and the Congress may have their political ambitions, but they should not allow that to override India's constitution. And the constitution is one of the institutions we need to protect. So I'm going to fight I'm a suspended member of the Congress, but because I don't have an ideological alternative to the Congress. The
Right.
Congress at core is a good party with a good ideology. It just seems to have forgotten the Gandhism and the Nehruvian values that it once came by. It needs to go back to its roots. And I do feel that in democracy, if one party is polarizing, you can't be the same. So if the BJP is polarizing India and vitriolic on social media, we need to be different. We
Right.
need to present. This is the same India that once voted for the Congress. So,
True.
Jerry, in conclusion, I would say I remain very bullish on India. I'm very optimistic that ultimately it's people like you, people like the thousands of others who will watch your show, thousands of others in civil society who are doing their bit today for the environment, for freedom, for democracy, for various other causes that affect us. All the people who are fighting against COVID, for example, risking their lives every day. India is a story of unsung heroes, yeah. It is not
Absolutely.
just about BJP and Congress and a couple of CEOs. India
Absolutely.
is unsung, millions of heroes. And if we can find them, trust me, there's no stopping this great country.
Very true. And I completely agree with you. And Congress has some great people. I happened to meet. I was in Goa in December, and I happened to meet with Mr. Girish Chodankar,
Mm.
and through some friends who knew that I had worked with Manohar Parikar earlier for his campaign. And I said, yeah, it's time to work with Congress now, because you need to somehow get rid of BJP in the next term, right? Whether it's in Goa or in India. And I always believe that Goa is a great microcosm for experimenting and then kind of replicating that across India. Uh, and I know you write on your Twitter handle that you're a congressy by heart, so I'm sure that you don't plan to kind of kind of defect from the party. But do you see any hope to salvage Congress, because most of the young blood which was there has defected? Many of them have joined BJP. There's been speculation. In fact, when we sent out a mail, many people wrote to me that asked Sanjay if he's also going to join BJP, and you already clarified that you would never join. So is there any way to kind of salvage this? Because if some strategy is not created to kind of salvage the Congress and make them a strong opposition again and a contender for the next elections, I see the BJP winning again in 2024. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jerry, I think that is a genuine apprehension that if the Congress doesn't get its act together, then I think Indian democracy is vulnerable. You see, who are the safe, shall we say, the guardrails or the protectors or the chowkidars of democracy, right? It's the political parties. Political parties are in turn supported by a civil society.
Right.
It's a political parties which fight elections. Elections is the best way to stop maybe an authoritarian party from winning or becoming fascist. So
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I think we lost Jyotiraditya Scindia. We should have never lost him. But I'm glad we prevented Sachin Pilot from maybe creating his own party. So there is Sachin, there is Milind, there is Jitin Prasad, there is Dipinder Huda. There are good people. There's Manish Tiwari. I mean, there's Sashi. There are good people. There is Anand Sharma. I mean, Congress has a good mix of people of all ages and demographics and intellectual capabilities. And I'm very confident that we will re-engineer ourselves. And I'm not going away anywhere. I'm there. The Congress suspended me from the party. The Congress can expel me from the party tomorrow, but nobody can deny me my right to the Gandhian Nehruvian ideology. And in that
Right.
sense, I'm more Congressy than 99% of the people who today claim to be congressmen.
Very nice, excellent, and I'm very happy to hear that, and that you're not going to defect to BJP.
Never, never.
On one side, Sanjay, and we've gone beyond time, but people are still watching, and I think there's so much to cover with you, with your compelling insights.
I'll have to go because I have somebody waiting to take me
Right,
out right now.
right.
So maybe another question. I'll take.
Sure, surely. So, my last question to you is, you were the spokesperson for the Congress for long, right? I have another classmate who's the spokesperson for NCP, and this has been a dilemma because I happened to write this book. One of the things which I wrote a book at the behest of the PMO and called Man Ki Baat, where I accepted the book on my terms, that I would write some thoughts which should complement your thoughts, but a lot of thoughts which should counter your thoughts, and that I reserve the rights to create Jan Ki Baat, where I crowdsource public opinion, which you should listen to.
Okay.
And then they asked me to be the spokesperson, and I said, if I become spokesperson, considering that many spokespeople, especially the BJP ones like Sambit Patra, etc., just come and kind of sit there and lie to your face. I said, would you allow me to say that we take responsibility that something has gone wrong and we will correct it? And they said, that's not good politics, right? So I said, then I can't be your spokesperson. Have you ever had have you ever had this ethical? I actually told them, I said, "Ghar pe bacche hain." They'll be watching me telling lies over there and say that dad teaches leadership values on one side and on the other side is lying for the party. Have you had this ethical and moral dilemma ever as a spokesperson?
But Jerry, let me tell you something. I mean, the way you narrated that story sounds absolutely hilarious. I can't imagine you and Sambit being colleagues. And I mean, Sambit would just lie with a straight face. I mean, he's a past master performer. I mean, he's also a friend, but I think he's outrageous when he wants to be. And I can't imagine somebody as principled as you shooting out their own national television. I understand your predicament, but you're right. I mean, there were times in the Congress when I had to go and, as they say, the old famous cliche, defend the indefensible. And you have to. But what happens is in politics is that once you take a posture and a position, you got to find a rationale to at least do whataboutery and dilute the impact of the negativism. But I'll give you the one part. Some parts I never compromised. Every time we used to criticize the BJP on the 2002 communal riots, and the BJP brought up the 1984 Sikh riots in Delhi. I feel that no congressman should ever try and defend that horrific, heinous, brutal massacre that happened.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are things that you cannot ever say. And I do feel that, I never compromised with that. I've said so before. When I was a Congress spokesperson, I said, what happened in 1984 is a monumental shame.
Absolutely.
And that death, no matter how many times you apologize, will remain a taint on the country, a stigma. Emergency, you can say what you like. The Congress can say that Jayaprakash Narayan called for a total revolution, told the armed forces to take our arms. But hang on, we had no business to suspend civil liberties. We had no business to put opposition leaders in jail. Now, there are some things that are non-negotiable. So therefore, my answer to your question will be, yes, there were times we had to just swallow the crap and, just kind of pontificate the same rubbish that the party expected you to do. But when it came to the crux on matters that were non-negotiable, I stood my ground, and I'm very
Right.
proud for that.
Very good. Excellent. And thank you for all your candor and your
Thank
courage of
you.
conviction to
Thank
speak like it is. Do you want to show all our viewers your book? I mean, this is my
Well,
book, of course, Karma Kari.
well, my daughter's reading my book at the moment, but
Okay, so
I would like to tell everybody who's watching this or will watch it later on a recording, The Great Unraveling India After 2014 is not a book about who's better between BJP and Congress. Many of you will vote BJP, many of you will vote Congress. That's irrelevant. You can vote for a third party as well. But I do believe that, guys, for God's sake, we are Indians. We this is a great country. Do not look at each other with suspicion. Do not judge whether Jerry goes to a church or a mosque, or Sanjay goes to a temple or a synagogue. I think we are Indians, man. This is a phenomenal country. Our children are going to live here. And I have one simple maybe test for you as to which party you should vote for. Look at the leaders of different parties and take your children and say, would I send my children to have dinner with the leaders of this party or that party? Whichever party suits you, vote for it. Because that's a trust you must have on the leadership or on their character or on the value they bring to the table. If your children can go and have a meal with them and you believe they will come up with some great learning, do it. But most important of all, believe that this country's got a great future and you as an individual are more powerful than you think.
thank you so much, Sanjay. Sanjay's book is available on Amazon and at leading bookstores. Thank you for answering and responding to all the queries so honestly and with integrity. And thank you for your candor and all the best for your future endeavors. And I'm happy to work with you to kind of salvage the Congress, because we need
Let's
to
do
get
that.
them ready to
Sure.
counter and contend with the BJP goons in 2024.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Take
Thank
care,
you.
man.
Bye bye. Yeah, take
Take
care.
care.
See you. Bye
Take
bye.
care, Jerry.